Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome to Liberty Call for Thursday, April 7th, 2022. Hope everybody's having a great day out there in the interwebs. I personally am having a shitty day. Just did my taxes and not happy. Personally, I hope the U.S. government burns to the ground. Those bastards keep stealing 30% of what we make, and it gets more irritating every single damn year. So I am going to find it funny when the government collapses here in the near future and all those government parasites, all those government employees, politicians, welfare recipients, hope y'all starve. So, all right, let's get on to the news for the day. All right, let's check out how the markets did. Let's see. Dow Jones was up 0.25%. It was down most of the morning, but made a nice rally here in the afternoon, finishing at 34,583. S&P 500 was up 0.43, closing at 4,500. NASDAQ was barely up at 0.06, closing at 13,897. Small caps were slightly down at 0.13. The VIX did recede today, down 2.49% to 2155. The other Americas, Canada was up, Brazil was up, and then Mexico was down 0.29%. Moving over to Western Europe, Germany down 0.5%. Same with the UK, France, the Euro stocks, the Netherlands. Was that Spain? Spain was down 0.17, and was this Italy down 0.59. We got one up. This looks like Switzerland, and then back down we have Portugal. So mostly down about 0.5%. Looks like in the European markets. Getting over to Eastern Europe, mostly green. It looks like the two Russian indexes did pretty well. The MOX was up 0.96 and the RTSI was up 5.57. Moving further along back in the day, let's see here. A couple of ups, a couple of downs. Let's see. Budapest, Hungary was down almost 5%. Moving over to Asia. Australia and New Zealand were down. All of the Chinese markets were down. The only one I see is up is Indonesia, up 0.33. But everything else was, most of the Asian markets or Chinese markets, let me say, were down 1% or more for the most part. So not the best day in the stock market, but hey, those things do happen. But good here in the U.S. All right. Go ahead and read through this market recap. Stock market or Dow in turnaround as tech dip buyers emerge. The Dow snapped a 2-day losing streak Thursday as investors swooped in to buy the dip in tech a day after the Federal Reserve's March meeting minutes showed the central bank is eyeing a faster pace of policy tightening to curb above trend inflation. Tech stocks, including Apple, Microsoft, cut losses to end the day in the green as investors bought the dip in big tech. Alphabet and Facebook closed above session lows. HP jumped more than 15% after Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway disclosed a 11.4% stake in the company. Twitter, meanwhile, fell about 5%, leading a broad-based decline in communication services after the New York Times reportedly told its newsroom staffers to meaningfully reduce how much time they spend on the platform. And maybe they're upset that Elon bought a big chunk of that and they're going to get their asses slapped. Treasury yields continued to add to recent gains as investors continue to digest the Fed's plans to tighten monetary policy. Quote, the final size of the cap set $95 billion per month is somewhat larger than the $80 billion we were expecting, end quote, Morgan Stanley said in the note. We continue to see the FOMC raising rates by 50 basis points at the May and June meetings this year and by 25 basis points at each meeting thereafter for the balance of the year, quote, end quote, it added. Bank stocks failed to capitalize on rising yields, which boosts their margins on lending amid worries that the Fed's hawkish plan to curb inflation would slow the economy into recession and lead to an increase in bad debts for banks. Well, be careful with who you lend money to, people. Lincoln National, Signature Bank, SVB Financial were the biggest decliners. Sentiment on Wall Street was soured by fading expectations that a Ukraine-Russia ceasefire is within reach as Moscow appears to be ramping up its war efforts in eastern Ukraine in response to Russia's ongoing war efforts and unwillingness to de-escalate the conflict. The United Nations Human Rights Council suspended Russia as a member. Oh, I bet they're so sad. The United Nations does so much good in the world. U.S. lawmakers, meanwhile, voted to ban imports of oil, gas, and coal from Russia and also strip Russia of most favored nation trade status, which could end normal trade with Russia, leading to higher tariffs. Energy stocks also turned positive as oil prices moved off the lows of the day after giving up gains following an agreement by International Energy Agency member countries to release 60 million barrels of crude. In earnings news, Levi Strauss cut losses to close 0.7% lower after reporting better than expected quarterly results as strong demand eased the impact of lost sales owing to supply chain disruptions. So, kind of an day as far as things in the market, some up, some down. Again, I'll just leave it there. All right. Up next, gold rises on inflation, Ukraine concerns. Gold prices rose Thursday as concerns over rising costs and the Ukraine crisis bolstered its appeal as an inflation hedge and as a safe haven, but the U.S. Federal Reserve's aggressive policy stance limited gains. Gold was up 0.5% to 1934.69 per ounce by 2:13 p.m. Eastern. U.S. gold futures rose 0.8% to 1937.80. Once inflation starts to heat up again, which I think it will, it's going to work in favor of gold, even in the face of aggressive Fed monetary policy, end quote, said Jim Wyckoff, senior analyst at Kitco Metals. Minutes of the Fed's March meeting showed deepening concern among policymakers that inflation has broadened through the economy, with many participants prepared to raise interest rates in hefty 50 basis point increments in the next few meetings. So, while inflation continues to rise, gold is starting to pick back up again. It had receded a bit. It's gotten real close to about 2,000 an ounce and had pulled back, down around 1920 or so. But I think, long term, we could expect it to see some more uptrends there, especially with the inflation. All right. Here's an article talking about what Congress did. Congress sends Biden a bill banning Russian oil imports. The House passed and sent President Joe Brandon for his signature legislation that would bar U.S. imports of Russian oil, gas, and coal. The 413-9 House vote followed 100-0 Senate approval earlier Thursday. Once signed by Biden, it will put into law an order he issued last month. I find it strange. They can get this pushed through in a day, but can't get, things that we really do need, like, reducing spending, getting rid of ridiculous government programs. Those take forever for some reason. Congress also voted Thursday to approve legislation stripping Russia of its normal trade relations status, a move that allows the U.S. to impose large tariff increases on goods from Russia and Belarus in response to the invasion of Ukraine. Quote, these atrocities that are taking place in Ukraine are unthinkable, end quote. Representative Richard Neal, a Massachusetts Democrat, said shortly before the vote, these actions will further isolate Putin and inflict greater pressure in the Kremlin to end its reign of terror on Ukraine, end quote. When crude oil and other petroleum products are included, such as unfinished fuel oil that can be used to produce gasoline and diesel, Russia accounted for about 8% of 2020 U.S. oil imports, according to the Energy Information Administration. The effort comes amid mounting pressure on lawmakers to tighten economic pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin as the atrocities of the war in Ukraine are revealed. Quote, this package is about bringing every tool of economic pressure to bear on Vladimir Putin and his oligarch cronies, end quote, said Senator Ron Wyden, an Oregon Democrat who authored the Senate version of the oil ban and trade legislation. Quote, Putin's Russia does not deserve to be part of the economic order that has existed since the end of World War II. Ending normal trade relations hammers home that Putin has made Russia into a pariah state, end quote. Funny thing, I don't remember anyone getting really upset when a certain country, the USA, invaded and bombed Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, has helped out with the blockade in Yemen by the Saudis. I don't remember anyone getting their panties in a wad over that. So, you know what? This is a lot of BS. Both, Ukraine and Russia, I assume, are, corrupt governments, obviously, from some of the rumors that have been coming out with Biden and his kid and some of the shenanigans they were doing back during Obama's administration. I think they're more trying to cover up their bad deeds than anything. That's just me. That's my opinion. All right, some good news. U.S. jobless claims declined by more than forecast to 166,000. This is a short one. Applications for U.S. state unemployment insurance fell last week by more than forecast as employers hold on to workers in an increasingly tight labor market. Initial unemployment claims decreased by 5,000 to 166,000 in the week ending April 2nd. The Labor Department data showed Thursday. The median estimate in a Bloomberg survey of economists called for 200,000 initial applicants. Continuing claims for state benefits rose to 1.5 million in the week ending on March 26th. So, some good news. Unemployment continues to stay down. So, I guess if you're going to get unemployment, do it now before all these governments start to collapse. So, all right. Well, that's everything I had for today. I'm sorry I'm in a bit of a pissy mood, but handing over, I think the actual number is about 32% of our gross wages go to the federal government to be wasted on welfare and meaningless government employee salaries and all the other stupid things they wasted on. Not a real happy guy today. So, all right. Well, I hope everyone has a fantastic evening, and I'll be back tomorrow with the weekly wrap up. Probably be in a better mood by then. So, have a good evening, and I'll talk to you then. Bye.